The Backyard Woodshop.
Hi, welcome back to the Backyard Woodshop. I'm Tom Ryder. Today we're doing a review on the plans from John Heisz over at it.ca. He's got some plans over there for these wooden parallel bar clamps, and they're great plans. I paid $8 for them of my own money. Definitely, if you want to build these, pay for it, because just in that alone, you're getting a benefit from paying $50-something per clamp for this. I bet you in wood and hardware, you wouldn't have more than $4 or $5 probably once you got finished. You know, because you're going to be mass producing these. That's the way I'm doing it. I'm making 14 of them. I've only put together 3 so far, and they're fantastic. So what you want to do is you want to build everything, cut all your parts, and then start the assembly. Let's talk about some things that I did a little bit differently. One of the big things is John bought a long 3/8 threaded rod and cut them into 6-inch lengths, and then put a nut on the end. Well, I looked at that and I said, well, I don't really want to do that. So what I did instead was, and it actually saves you a little bit of money, is I just bought 6-inch carriage bolts that are 3/8. So these are already cut, already have a piece on the end. The only thing that you'll need to do to get it to fit into the hole that you're going to need in the pad is grind the head down a little bit, which is no big deal, right? You put a little bit of Vaseline on the end. It's already smooth, see? And these work great. Plans are laid out really well. There's a couple measurements I wish he would have included. One of them would have been the total height of this screw block here. You have to add up a couple of measurements, and guess what? I didn't do it right. I didn't look at one of the measurements correctly, and I typed in the wrong amount, and I made about 20 blocks that were wrong, and that could have, not to knock John's plan. If I'd have done it right, I wouldn't even be complaining about it, but I wish he would have included like an overall, this is your total height that you need. That worked. Once I got it right, they worked, but I made them a little short on the first stack, and boy, was that a problem. And I didn't discover it until after I made 20 of them, which is my own fault again. I should have made a sample one to start. One of the other things is, in his video, he talks about only using 2 bars at a time to make the teeth. I don't know why he decided that. I made 4 at a time and cut the teeth, and I had 0 issue. Now I did make my jig a little bit bigger because of my router size. Like his jig, you can see it in the video, his material is a 1/2 inch thick, where I had to use 3/4 to lift up for my size of router. I don't have a palm router. And in his video, one of the other things he does is he changes out this front piece, and I'm like, why would you do that? Why don't I just make 2 of them? So that's what I did. I made one that's a starter, because you know, it has to sit flat, but then you need another one that'll lock into the teeth, and that's what this one is. Or you could do it another way, which I thought about, but I was like, I don't want to mess with that. You could round off one edge and then flip it over, and then have one edge that's cut, so you could unscrew it, flip it, you know, start, and then flip it back, screw it back in, and then you've got it for the notches. But instead, I decided to make just 2 of them, because they're all scraps. Now, if you notice, my pieces are offset, and that's so that I could just take the router with the collet, hit it, and slide in, and then slide out. Super easy to do. Both of them are that way, and I advise you to do the same. It just makes it a lot easier when you're using collets, so you don't have to try and get it into the groove. I've got my start jig set up here, and I'm starting the first notch at 1 inch from the end. As you can see, I've got this offset here, and that offset lets me just take and drop that in and just make the cut. So I don't have to like try and line it up. I can just rest my router on it, drop it in, and make the cut. And you can also use one of these to kind of help hold it. back, but that is how it works. You got your bit set for a 1/16 of an inch, and as long as it passes up to there, you're all set. So let's make a cut and I'll show you how this looks. So now I don't know how necessary the clamp is really, but there we go. We've got our first notch. It looks good. So now all I have to do is, I like to clamp the tail end here. Well, first I got to put this on, I guess. Once this is in, then you just take and butt that up against there. Put your clamp back on. I like to do that. It just helps keep everything aligned. And now I'm ready just to go along and make cuts. So here we go. But as you can see, make some nice uniform cuts. You just want to make sure that you're in the next notch. Make sure it's down good, and then you can just continue this process until you get to the end where you want to stop. But you can see I can just make 4 at a time. This, speeds up the process. And once you've got these clamped, you can just go along and go. Once you get all your bars cut, they're all going to look consistently like this. So I batched out 4 of them really quick. And the next step you're going to want to do is take one of those and put your end piece on. And how I do it is a little different than what he does it, which there's nothing wrong with any way you want to do it. You just want to, these are a really snug fit. You just want to bop them down in there, just like that. There we go. Get a nice tight fit on each one. You're going to glue these as well, but I'm not going to take you through that whole procedure. So once you get these on, that's what it's going to look like right there. And then what I do is I just glue it, and instead of using clamps, these are shop tools to me. I know he wanted his to look really beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with that. But these are more for just clamps to me. And the only thing I will do is finish them, but I'm just going to take and glue them, shoot some brad nails in them. That way they're ready to go. After about an hour, they'll be dry and all set. So I'll do that later on off camera. And if you don't get your end exactly right, you can just do like he did in his video and true it up. I'm doing, since I'm using a carriage bolt, these systems here have to be married first along with the bolt inside. So first thing we got to do is drop in our washer. We're going to put in some petroleum jelly as a lubricant, and then we're going to trap the bolt inside of the part. And then that is going to be a completed assembly here. Where he added it towards the end, I'm adding it at the beginning. I'll show you how I do the handles. It's a little bit different than how he did it. It's basically his design, but I'm using my small wood lathe my mini lathe here to drill the hole. It's more precise than holding it with a drill press, I think. But all you have to do is mark one end with an X, and if you've got a chuck like I do, you just clamp it in on the other end. And I'll step out of the way here and let you see that hole get drilled, and you'll see how straight this hole is. Go up to the tape mark, and that's 2 inches deep was the recommended. Then you put in your tool, make sure you always take it out. Quick little bop, and there we go. We've got our hole here. This is my jig that I rigged up. This one makes the clamp handle. This one here makes the clamping block, or for the spring block, makes that angle. So let's go ahead and make our clamping block, spring block, real fast. And so how you have to do that is you just take it, and if you cut this jig right, it'll hold it in there, and you can make your cut. So here we go. So that gives you your angle for your spring block. And then on the same board, I've just got my handle set for that. And let's say you've got one like this one that's a little out. Well, these little off pieces that come off make great little wedges. And so you can just wedge in this piece so it stays really tight. And there we go. And then I like to have something on top just to hold it down. And then you've got your little handle right there. You just need to sand it, and it'll look really good. Let me show you the components of this here. We've got our mechanical assembly here, our screw block and our pad. As you can see here, our screw block and our pad. They're going to sit in that upper top corner there. Then you've got the bar that's going to go in right here, lock into the tooth, and then you've got your spring block that's going to go at the bottom. And that little bit of spring tension from that piece of maple is going to hold this all together, and you know, let you work it like a springed clamp. And then you put your top on, and that's your assembly, along with your handle. I just still have to shape it, but you get the idea. You'll glue that in. I just used liquid nail. Worked really well. I didn't have any issues. I used wood glue for pretty much everything else. I tried liquid nail on some of the spring blocks. That worked too. So whatever you have in your shop. And then you'll have your finished spring right here and your clamp. Like I used his block over the fence to do a lot of the cutting. But instead of a single board, I did a double on this side. You could do that on both sides and just keep turning it, and I put a little handle up here, just something to grab. I built that jig, you know, so it had a handle on one side and the correct angle for the spring block on the other. You got your two sets of notch blocks here, notch jigs, to cut your notches. And if you notice that everything is already set and it's nothing I've destroyed, so I can just keep making clamps, so I can just save these and make clamps when I need them. which is really good. I cut a bunch of extra parts. I'm going to assemble a lot of these blocks like this, and these mechanisms, and just have them sitting ready, and then when I feel like it, make some bars and I'm all set. And you can I really like his system because you can take one mechanical block system, slide it on another clamp super quick. Alright, so as you can see, this is one of the clamps I've already had built. I use screws and glue to hold the side covers on, but on the new one, I went ahead, the one I built in this video with you, I went ahead and just used glue and brad nails, and I think that's going to be strong enough. I really don't think the screws are going to add so much strength once the glue is dry. So I think for me this is going to speed things up as well, so I can just tag in some brads real quick to hold the glue until it dries, to keep all the pieces contained. But I've got our handle shaped and put on. If you guys have questions about how to make this handle, I'll do what I can to answer it. You just need a little simple jig like I showed you, and you can just batch them out pretty quick. I hope you've gotten something out of this video. Again, I'm not taking credit for these clamps in any way, shape, or form. These are John Heisz's. They're from his plans. I built them his way. The only thing is I changed some of the procedures of building it, and I just wanted to show that. So I'm not taking credit for his design at all. Please do not think I am. This is just for information for you guys, to give you some alternative ways to do this. I appreciate you watching, and until next time, I see you in the backyard.